Well, I guess you can't win them all. The Liberty lost their first game of the season to the Indiana Fever, so I have to bring on Myles Ehrlich, senior writer at Winsidr, so we can get his thoughts on if the Liberty were actually exposed on this one. Myles, thanks for hopping on with us. We can't take away that it was the best start in franchise history, but they didn't get it done today. I feel like the Fever always plays this team tough. Caitlin Clark had a career day. LeBron tweeted about her after. So I guess give us your thoughts on the Liberty's first loss of the season.
Yeah, this was a tough one for them. They were down two starters. First game without Leonie Fibish, who went to Eurobasket, and Jonquel Jones, who suffered an ankle injury last week and is day to day. So they had that kind of uphill climb to start. But Caitlin returned, and she was phenomenal. She had 7 threes, tying a career high, 32 points, near triple double. But it was also just everybody on the Fever came to play. There late in that game, the Liberty cut a 16-point deficit down to 3, and then it was all the secondary players making all of the big shots. Caitlin didn't score in the fourth quarter, so the narrative kind of should shift a little bit just from how dynamic that entire Fever offense was. But yeah, this is going to wake up New York and give them a little bit of they came into the game best offensive rating, best defensive rating, and then gave up 102 points. So even if you're down a couple of pieces, that's going to give you some pause. JJ is so important to everything they do. And in the 3 years she's with the team, they haven't lost a regular season game when she double doubles. So obviously this is not at full strength, but it shows them that yeah, they've gotten away with some sloppy play earlier in the season and still escaped with W's, especially the first time they played the Fever. But they're not where they need to be in terms of a consistency effort standpoint. And that's what they talked about post game mostly.
Well, let's stay on JJ, her absence, because we don't know how long she's going to be out. So how much was she missed? We're talking about a superstar in this league. And are you worried that they were exposed without her?
So the good news on that front is that she truly is day to day. This is not going to be a serious injury for JJ. I was at practice on Friday, and although she wasn't participating with the team, she was on the other end of the court getting up some shots. And even pregame, Sandy Brondello said the hope and the expectation is that they could have her back as soon as next game, Tuesday, versus Atlanta. So that's the good news there. But yeah, I mean, you're trying to replace someone who was the Finals MVP last season in the team's first championship. So that's always going to be hard to do. And it just kind of forces that next man up mentality and pushes everyone else's roles a little bit further. They're very lucky that Niara Sabali decided to stay here instead of going with Leo to Eurobasket like her plans initially were. But Niara is coming off of a break where she was out for 7 straight games with a knee issue. So they're still building her up. She only played she did play 30 minutes today after only playing 15 in her first game and had 10 and 9 with 4 steals and 2 blocks today. But imagine that as a secondary to Jonquel Jones, who also just as a passer really just elevates the team. Obviously, she can bury everybody on the post. She can shoot from outside, and what she does in the paint just defensively and the way that she comes out on some of those hedges, there's no one doing it like JJ. So
Yeah.
they absolutely miss her, but hopefully it's just a short-term thing.
I feel like this is a great opportunity for Niara to kind of carve out her role. Like, what is your identity? What do you bring to this team? We know what Jonquel Jones brings, but if you are going to be that piece that kind of spells her, you come in when she's down, or maybe you can have some sort of situation to where it's like with the Knicks, where it's Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson on the floor at the same time. I feel like this is a great opportunity for her to kind of carve out her role and to show her value to an offense or a team or a roster that already has stars on it. Speaking of one of those stars, Sabrina Ionescu became the fastest player in W history to hit 900 assists. She also has over 2,500 points scored. She keeps hitting milestone after milestone after milestone. Had a good game today, but it wasn't enough. I guess you cover this team. You're around her. What does she mean to the Liberty in this franchise?
So she means everything to this new era of Liberty basketball. She was that number 1 overall pick when they were transitioning to the Barclays Center. So before that, her first year, she only played 3 games in the bubble before getting hurt. But before that, they had been marooned to Westchester, and Tina Charles had been the face of the team. And when they drafted Sab, they said, "This is your team now." And obviously, that only goes to a point when you bring in your Brianna Stewarts and your Jonquel Joneses and your Natasha Clouds. There are a lot of other pieces there that make this team so great. But Sabrina really has seen it. And she said it the other day post game. She saw it when they first got to Barclays in 2021 with the COVID limited seating, but there were like 2,000 fans a game there. And now we're at a point where there are 15,000, 16,000. Yeah. So there's just that impact of her watching this franchise be revitalized under this ownership group. But I think what makes her so great is just how she's always improving her game. And today she had 34 points, which is a season high, on 55% shooting, on a game where they knew they were down 2 starters and she would have to take on more of that offensive load. But where her evolution has really come, especially in the last 3 years, has been inside the arc. We know that she's a prolific shooter. In 2023, she set at that time the record for the most made threes in the season on 44% shooting. But the knock on her game was that she couldn't finish inside the arc. She shot just 36 or 38% that year. And then last year it went up to 46% when she added a floater. And now this year she's shooting 56% inside the arc. And she's worked on her mid-range game. So she's just adding and adding and adding. And that's what the great players do. They just keep on making their games better.
And her court vision was on full display today. There were a couple of times, she's dribbling, she's driving, and you can see her eyes looking to make a play, whether it was going to be to Stewie or to another player. So that court vision was on full display today. Myles, let's get your final thoughts, man, because they're only 9-1 on the season, but you know how this is New York. You lose a game, fire everybody. Everybody's a bum. You win, you're Super Bowl champs, or you're going to win the Commissioner's Cup. Final thoughts on this team going forward.
I think it's a 44-game season. They were under no illusions that they were going to go undefeated. But as we see in all sports, taking that loss can be a good thing at some point, because otherwise you just don't have the adversity to know how to respond in the moments where the lights get brighter, where the moments get bigger. So I think that this is something they'll be able to build off of, especially because they've gotten away with some of these lapses early in the season in games that maybe they should have dropped, but they were able to lean on their experience. So that's not going to happen all the time. But the other thing, which you say, is the Commissioner's Cup is something that they maybe forfeited today by losing this game, because now they're tied with the Fever at the top of the standings. But that head-to-head is the tiebreaker. So they no longer control their destiny for the Commissioner's Cup, and that would be a harsh lesson for them, especially with the financial incentives that it has to win that game or even just to be in it.
Real quick before I let you go, the Fever, 5-5. They're at 500 on the season. Caitlin Clark is back and healthy. Is this a team that we should be keeping our eye on going forward for the rest of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been high on the Fever all season, and similar to the last point, having that adversity of losing Caitlin for a couple of weeks might be something that in the long term helps them, because we've seen Kelsey Mitchell take over before. Aaliyah Boston is having her best season in her 3rd year as a pro, but had to do it at first with Caitlin, where she's gotten so much better at those short rolls. Their pick and roll is so good, but then also as controlling more as the dominant head of the snake for them in those couple of games. The role players all stepped up. So this is the kind of thing that, you go 2-3 in that stretch without her, but come September, when you really need to lean on your depth, they all know that they can do it, and they've built that trust. So they're a team absolutely that we need to watch.
All right, Myles Ehrlich, appreciate you coming on and showing off your expertise, my man.
Of course, anytime. Thanks, Brandon.